Hello everyone. Congrats on surviving another week of online learning. So for this video, I'm going to go through the student plan for the rest of this endocrine system. I changed a few things, obviously. I'm also going to go through the weekly plan for this week and go through the tasks that we need to do. I would also like to review the glands that we started before break. So remember, you guys made those posters that were hanging up around the room, the different glands and the hormones that they produce. So I'm going to review that and show you how to or where to find the answers for those. I'm going to do a quick engagement and tell you about the need to know terms that you need to do, or need to know, for the activity for today. All right, so this document, this is the materials for this unit. For anatomy, we still need to know the location of the glands. So you're going to make a Google drawing. I'll have a template for you, just like you did for the epidemiology unit for the lymphatic system. I'm going to give you different disorders of the endocrine system, and then you tell me which gland is being affected based on the symptoms, along with which hormones would be disrupted in that patient. So those will come from the document that I'm going to share with you here in a second. Physiology, so we're going to start that today. You need to be able to explain how the endocrine system and the nervous system work together to maintain homeostasis, and then also describe how the endocrine system regulates different body processes. And then also you need to know what is a hormone, what does it do, and then the two classifications of hormones. Medical application, we're going to start that Tuesday and Wednesday. It's going to be a take-home lab. You guys are going to stress yourselves out as if you're not already stressed out enough, and then record your heart rate and use that to write a CER. And then when you guys write that CER, you can just copy and paste that onto the summative, which is going to be Thursday. We will not do the homeostasis standard this unit, and we will not do the medical terminology standard. All right, the second thing, this is the student plan that is shared with you. Nope, that's not it. Here it is. So for Monday, watch this video, what you're doing now. Take some time, look through the student plan, look through the weekly plan. I would also like you guys to review the glands and the hormones. So this is linked here. It's also in the student materials folder for this unit. These are the glands that you guys made posters of, the hormones that we need to know that they produce, and then the function of those hormones. And they line up on this handout. So the thyroid stimulating hormone regulates the thyroid. So take some time today, go back and review these. Most of them are common sense. The name of the hormone tells you what it does. So take some time today, go back, review those. All right. And then also today, I'd like you to do the regulation of an endocrine system exploration. Looks like this, a few models you'll be answering questions about, and most of these questions, it's just a one-word answer. So this will go really quickly. So take some time, look at these models, go through these critical thinking questions. Second model here. I know this looks confusing at first. These questions will guide you through interpreting this model. And then a few application questions. And then the last model, model 3, shows all of the hormones produced by the anterior pituitary and their targets. So which gland or which organ or tissue type that they target. And then a few questions go along with that. I think I'm going to go through some terms that you need to know to do this here in a second. All right. Let me pull up. This slide's a really good slide too if you want to review the glands. So you should know 1 through 6 which glands those are. So you have your pineal, the pituitary, thyroid, and then within the thyroid is the parathyroid, the thymus, which remember that's the gland that goes away after puberty and turns into adipose tissue. Your adrenal glands, which sit on top of your kidneys, the pancreas, and then in females, obviously ovaries, males, testes. So we need to know the location of these glands, but we also need to know the important hormones that they produce, which again are located sorry, one second, right here, the endocrine glands and hormones. All right. So today, before we jump in, I want to tell you about a man named Robert Wadlow. He is the world's tallest man. He actually lived in Alton, Illinois, which is about a 2.5-hour drive south from here. There's a statue still standing there to commemorate him. And so he has a disease called acromyalgia, the common term gigantism. So basically what happens with somebody with this disease, this disorder, a healthy subject in the pituitary gland, this is a negative feedback loop, so it produces GH, which is the growth hormone, which has all of these different feedback mechanisms, and then ultimately the IGF or insulin-like growth factors produce, which lessens the growth hormone produced by the pituitary. So healthy subjects, that's a negative feedback loop that's regulated. Somebody with acromyalgia, they have an impaired feedback system, which ultimately produces too much of the IGF, too much of the growth hormone, which then kind of turns this negative feedback loop into a positive feedback loop. And the body produces too much of the IGF hormone, which plays a role in childhood growth. And so these individuals grow a lot during the during puberty. All right, so why we need to know this. The pituitary gland is a really, really important gland, produces a lot of hormones, and it produces a lot of hormones that are considered trophic hormones, which means that they trigger another gland. So the pituitary gland is kind of considered the control center of the endocrine system because it controls other endocrine glands. We also need to know the connection between the endocrine system and the nervous system. So as we know, the endocrine system is produced of glands. The nervous system, which we already did, produced of neurons, made of neurons. And so the endocrine system ultimately controls the nervous system. We know neurotransmitters, we talked about acetylcholine, they're released by neurons. Hormones are released by endocrine glands, so a little bit different. So here's a picture, here's an axon producing a neurotransmitter, so maybe this is acetylcholine, which bind to receptor proteins. Hormones are carried by blood, and they also have their own receptor proteins. And this is a lock and key system, meaning for every substrate it has its own neurotransmitter that fits into that protein. All right, we need to know the two different types of hormones. There's protein-based hormones and lipid-based hormones or fat-based hormones. So some examples: polypeptides, glycoproteins, amines, and then lipid-based hormones like steroids. So those are the two classifications: protein-based and lipid-based. We need to know why hormones are needed. So they are chemical messengers from one part of the body to another. They communicate needed information. They help coordinate the whole body, the whole process of homeostasis. Daily homeostasis and regulation of large-scale changes. So for example, regulating glucose levels, calcium levels, salt levels in the blood, metabolism, growth, development, and reproduction. Here is a model showing how our bodies control our body temperature. So we already kind of talked about this one, the first unit. So if our body temperature gets too high, this is a negative feedback loop. The hypothalamus is triggered, releases a hormone, releases a signal, which then causes our skin to sweat. And then if our body temperature gets too low, again, the hypothalamus is triggered, which receives signals, and then, send signals, and then our blood vessels constrict and we start to shiver. Okay, so this one is a little bit trickier. So this is the blood glucose, regulation of blood glucose. So this is also a negative feedback mechanism. So here, if our blood sugar gets too high, our pancreas, which is a very important gland, releases a hormone called insulin. And the insulin causes the cells in our body to take in sugar from the blood. If our blood sugar gets too low, again, the pancreas is triggered. A little bit different here. Instead, it triggers the production of glucagon, which then triggers hunger in our bodies and also releases glucose into the blood system. So a little bit different. This model, so this is showing the anterior pituitary and the posterior pituitary. You're going to explore this a little bit further in the exploration for today. The anterior produces several, again, tropic hormones. That's the term you need to know, tropic hormones. Those are hormones that trigger other glands. So for example, the anterior pituitary releases the thyroid stimulating hormone, which controls your thyroid. So this hormone, TSH, is a tropic hormone. All right, and that is all you need to know. So for today, spend some time doing this regulation of the endocrine system exploration. I have an answer key made that I can make a video with later this week and have you guys watch that if you are confused. All right, and good luck.